Whether it's Kevin Nash and Booker T's amazing returns from Impact Wrestling back in 2011, the new debuts of NXT talent such as Adam Cole or Andrade Cien Almas, or even celebrities like Drew Carey, the Royal Rumble always has surprises in store for us. And we here at PWP are going to tell you about these surprises, not only the men's Royal Rumble, but the women's as well. Now, before we get started, we would just like to say, no, there will be no Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is obviously going to go to AEW. Cody's there, the Young Bucks are there, and if for whatever reason he doesn't get in an agreement with AEW, he will end up back in New Japan. Now, let's get started. The first man, who it doesn't seem as of 2 weeks ago would be much of a surprise, is John Cena. As we saw on Monday Night Raw, John Cena's ankles seem to have been injured in the match where he lost to Finn Balor, but we are wondering if this was kayfabe, and this is so that way he can disappear for a little bit, film some more movies before WrestleMania, or if this was a legit injury to Big Match John. John Cena was supposed to face Lars Sullivan at WrestleMania, but with Lars Sullivan having an anxiety attack before his debut, those plans are now up in the air. I'm wondering if maybe this ankle injury, if Lars was supposed to attack John before Raw to set up this match, maybe now they're going to incorporate this into John Cena having to come back to make it to WrestleMania. But with that being said, John Cena could be a surprise you see this Sunday. The next surprise, as being reported by many source outlets, is Hornswoggle. Now, Hornswoggle, of course, did make an appearance at the Greatest Royal Rumble, so it would be no surprise to see the little man here. It'd be a quick little elimination for someone, no pun intended. It would also be a nice little pop for his music, because people do recognize the music Hornswoggle comes out to. I wouldn't be a fan of this. I'm not too sure why they would waste a Rumble surprise on Hornswoggle, but that is something that WWE has done in the past with characters like The Godfather, or even when they had Enzo come out as a surprise. The next person is Jerry the King Lawler. Now, Jerry Lawler has made Rumble surprise appearances in the past while getting up from the commentary booth, so this wouldn't be too much of a shock. But Jerry Lawler is starting to get back into wrestling. He, at 69 years old, is going to partake in a steel cage match soon, so a Royal Rumble really wouldn't be that big of a commitment compared to the steel cage. Now, as I said earlier, NXT debuts happen all the time, and one person who hasn't got a lot of screen time since coming up to the main roster is EC3. Now, understandably, the music and just the look of EC3 coming down at the Royal Rumble, maybe even at number 3 to cash in on his name, it would just be a great little spot for Ethan Carter III to appear at. Now, he may have got taken out at the Crown Jewel while teaming with Shawn Michaels, but Triple H is slated to come back, and he is supposed to have a big WrestleMania match. Whether this is against Batista or someone else, the King of Kings always makes an appearance at WrestleMania, so it'd be no surprise to see him maybe make a return at the Royal Rumble, perhaps targeting whoever he needs, whether this is a returning Batista or someone else. It was reported earlier in the week that Abyss and Sanjay Dutt both left Impact Wrestling and signed with the WWE. Now, whether this was in a training role or a wrestling role, it will have to be seen. Now, Abyss would make the most sense to be someone who debuts in the Royal Rumble. Whether this is just a one-off or it leads to a WrestleMania match, he definitely deserves it. He was pinnacle in the hardcore division in TNA, the tag team division, even the heavyweight division. So it'd be a nice little moment for the monster Abyss. Someone we haven't seen on TV since he was with The Bar was The Big Show. Now, The Big Show, of course, it was reported he had a hamstring injury at the time, so maybe it is healed by now. And if The Big Show were to come back, that's always a giant that could be put over the top rope by the eventual winner. Speaking of winners, Matt Hardy won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal back at WrestleMania. So would it be that big of a shock if Matt Hardy was maybe in the Final 4, Final 5 of the Royal Rumble? Earlier in the year, actually last year, it seemed that maybe Matt Hardy's career was over. It was being reported that his lower back was slowly being fused together. But Matt Hardy recently went on Twitter and said he is not retired. And so maybe this is the opening he needs, and a Royal Rumble return is always a good way to come back. Another individual who's hurt who could come back is Ty Dillinger. Now, it seems the past 2 years they've used his 10 gimmick to come out at number 10. The first time he did it, he got to come out at 10. The second time, he got jumped before he could come out. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Ty Dillinger come out at 10. Two other returning men from injury that I wouldn't be surprised to see would be Harper and Rowan. The former SmackDown Tag Champions had a large push as they both unfortunately got injured. Eric Rowan got injured in a match with the New Day, and while he was out, Luke Harper decided to get surgery that he needed on his wrist. So maybe we will see the return of the Bludgeon Brothers. And besides the Bludgeon Brothers, we could also see the return of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt has been off TV for a long time. It is being said that a new gimmick might be being created by Bray, and we've seen him on Twitter in a picture with Tatanka working out at the gym. So who knows how Bray Wyatt will come back, but I think the Royal Rumble would be the perfect time, as it could set up a WrestleMania match. Who knows, maybe he comes out and fights Matt Hardy because of how their tag title reign and their partnership didn't really have a end chapter. Another returning legend that I could see coming back at the Royal Rumble is Booker T. Booker T recently came out of retirement for his wrestling promotion down in Texas, so maybe this is the time that he comes back at the Rumble again. He recently said he would like to do one last run with the WWE, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch. If you watched wrestling in the early 2000s, then you remember the tag team of Book Dust. Now, if Booker T were to return, it would be pretty tremendous for Goldust to come back. Goldust has been training for an in-ring return since he had his knees worked on, and Goldust, as far as I can remember, has had some of the more memorable returns in a Royal Rumble. Hearing the beginning of his music and seeing the lights turn gold, it always creates a big pop from the crowd. Another big pop from the crowd could be if X-Pac returned. X-Pac was asked on Twitter by a fan if he would come back for one last run with the WWE, and he said he would love it. So again, it would make perfect sense for him to appear at the Rumble. He, of course, is good friends with Triple H, and with Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement lately, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch for another former DX man to appear. I mean, Triple H and Shawn both have been fighting, and the New Age Outlaws won the tag titles a few years ago, so maybe X-Pac will finally get his shake at the stick. One more friend of Triple H is, of course, Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash has came back in 2 Royal Rumbles now. As previously mentioned, he was Diesel, and then a few years later, he came out as just Kevin Nash. He's been working out. He also had his knees worked on, but he seems to be in some of the best shape of his life, even winning some independent heavyweight championships. So it would be nice to see Big Daddy Cool in one more Royal Rumble. I've mentioned big men such as Big Show and Kevin Nash, and even monsters such as Harper and Rowan, but there is no monster like the monster among men, Braun Strowman. And even though he was taken out of the heavyweight title match due to him not being ready physically, it wouldn't be that big of a stretch to see him enter the Rumble and even win it. Now, Braun doesn't have to do much with his arm at the time, he just has to toss people over the rope and show his strength, and then it could set up for the Braun-Brock rematch that never truly happened. One last man that could return from injury is Sami Zayn. Now, of course, it was reported that Kevin Owens wouldn't return till after Mania, but Sami Zayn's injury happened a little before Owens, so it could seem that Sami Zayn could come back before Owens. And again, with the music and the high energy Sami Zayn has, it'd be a great appearance in the Rumble. And with his stamina, he could even enter early like a Chris Jericho and last for a long time. The last group of men are grouped together because they're from NXT. As I said earlier, it seems that each year new NXT people appear in the Rumble to kind of put their foot in the door. This year, the 4 that I could see appearing would be the Velveteen Dream, just due to how hot he is in NXT, how he didn't appear at TakeOver. It seems like they're setting him up for something, maybe a John Cena match. Could be Aleister Black. He, of course, is going to be fighting Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver, but if he loses or even wins, Andrade Cien Almas did appear in the Royal Rumble as the NXT champion, so that wouldn't be too big of a stretch to see Aleister Black appear with the title. Johnny Gargano. Gargano is one of the hottest people on NXT. He's been there for so long. He's becoming Mr. Takeover. He's fighting Adam Cole for the North American title at Takeover. But again, imagine seeing Gargano appear on the main roster, having a Rumble moment, and then maybe the next night on Raw, Tommaso Ciampa jumping him, kind of a main roster version of the Kevin Owens-Sami Zayn feud from NXT. And finally, the last NXT man that I could see reappearing would be Adam Cole. He made a great appearance at the Rumble last year, so again, seeing him with or without the North American title wouldn't be that big of a stretch within the Rumble's limitations. And finally, it's been speculated for a long time that Batista will be making a return soon, and the Royal Rumble would be the spot to do it. They muddled it up the last time he returned at the Rumble. They announced it ahead of time. You knew he was going to win, but what if you didn't even know he was coming out, and his I Walk Alone music hit, and he ran down to the ring? As I said, he is supposed to fight Triple H at WrestleMania 35, or if that does not happen, there is a chance that he fights someone else. They said they have a big match lined up for him for this anniversary of WrestleMania, and it would be great to see Dave have one last run, a run that he's wanted for a long time. Now, of course, the men's Royal Rumble is not the only Royal Rumble. The women's one is out there, and I have some predictions of women that could be surprise appearances. Trish Stratus is, without a doubt, one of the greatest female superstars of all time. So seeing her appear in the first women's Royal Rumble, entering at 30, that was something. So I wouldn't be surprised if she made an appearance in this year's women's Royal Rumble, especially since there's been rumors that she and her partner are supposed to be vying for the women's tag team championship. Her partner, of course, being Lita. Lita entered early in the Women's Royal Rumble last year, had a tremendous pop due to her music. People did not expect to see her back. She had her moonsault. So as I said, her and Trish are supposed to be fighting at WrestleMania 35, so it'll be no shock to see Lita in this year's Women's Royal Rumble. Someone who put on a good showing in the Battle Royal at the Evolution pay-per-view was Ivory. And I could see Ivory showing up in this year's Women's Royal Rumble. I do not remember her being in last year's Women's Royal Rumble, and she was a fixture in the Attitude Era and even a little bit into the Ruthless Aggression Era, helping to train some of the newer superstars. So Ivory could definitely still be in the Royal Rumble. Someone who's been talking a lot on social media about returning in some form or fashion is Melina. Now, Melina, of course, was one of the better women's wrestlers in the mid to late 2000s, so it'd be nice to see her get one more push of sorts in a Royal Rumble environment. Now, we saw Alundra Blaze in the previously mentioned Battle Royal Evolution, but we have not seen the return of Medusa, or even the debut of Medusa in a WWE ring. So I think that this Women's Royal Rumble would be the time to do it. Break out the Stars and Stripes, because Medusa will be on her way. And the final woman that I could see being in the Women's Royal Rumble as a surprise, kind of as a goof, kind of as a gaffe, is women's announcer Renee Young. Now, as I said earlier, we've seen Jerry Lawler come up from the announce booth. We've seen JBL come up from the announce booth. We've seen Booker T do it. We've even seen Michael Cole come up from the announce booth. So wouldn't it be something if Renee Young, for her first match, came up from the announce booth and entered the second Women's Royal Rumble? Now, of course, these are all just speculations, but it would be interesting to see any of these men or women appear. Of course, they all can't. I listed 30 possible people, both men and women, and most of both of the Royal Rumbles are filled up, but these are just possibilities. Do you have anyone that you think could appear in the Royal Rumbles? If so, send us an email at our Gmail, ProWrestlingProverbs@gmail.com, or send us a tweet at our Twitter, which is at PWProverbs. You can either send us a DM or tag us in a tweet and tell us who you think could be a surprise return at the Royal Rumble. Or even as you're watching the Royal Rumble, tag us if we got one of them right.